On the back of our $1 bills, you will notice a picture of the Great Seal of the United States with the pyramid and above it, the all-seeing eye. In my book, Guardians of the Grail and the Men Who Plan to Rule the World, I go back into the history of this all-seeing eye, and on one page, on page 36, I have a picture of the capstone to the pyramid with the all-seeing eye, and it is cloistered in a rose. This rose is a symbol of the Rosicrucians, an ancient secret order determined to establish a new world order or world government. Gary Stearman is here to discuss with me this conspiracy for world government.
And the plan, of course, is a satanic conspiracy from on high. Those principalities and powers that Paul talked about in Ephesians 6:12. But Jesus talked about it too, J.R. As a matter of fact, the parable of the fig tree in Matthew talks about the tender branch and the putting forth of leaves. And Jesus said, you know, when you see that fig tree come out, it's about time. But in the Luke version of this same parable, in Luke 21:29, he spake to them a parable, behold the fig tree and all the trees, when they now shoot forth, you see and know of your own selves that summer is nigh at hand. Summer being
the kingdom of heaven.
The kingdom of heaven.
Yeah. Now, he talked about the fig tree, that's Israel. But all the trees represent an emerging of nations into a new world order.
And
they're blossoming, huh?
They're I guess you could say, blooming in unison. You know, I think there's a sense of times and seasons in this, because when those trees come forth, they won't do it until the proper season. And they all do it, they seem to do it together with the fig tree.
Terry Cook was in our studios recently, and we had an opportunity to visit with him about this emerging new world order. It's really a fascinating subject.
It is a fascinating subject. The New World Order is in the minds of planners, has been for a long time. As this pre-recorded segment comes up, you might want to get out a dollar bill and have it in your hand, because Terry Cook is going to talk about what's printed on the back of that common everyday dollar bill that you possess, hopefully many of. This taped segment is going to illustrate to you just how thoroughly Terry Cook has done his homework. Here's that pre-recorded segment right now.
The prophets of the Bible have long talked about a coming world government established by the Antichrist. It will be short-lived. Nevertheless, it will come to pass. The prophets said it would. Today's politicians are also calling for a new world order, a government of global proportions. Listen to what President George Bush said about this new world order.
A new world order. New world order. To fulfill the long-held promise of a new world order. A new world order. A new world order. We have a real chance at this new world order. And it has to do with a new world order. That is the only way the new world order will be enhanced. A world in which there is the very real prospect of a new world order. Even the new world order cannot guarantee an era of perpetual peace. Will shape not only the new world order we see,
and why the world has turned so much toward a new world order and a new kind of civilization.
How they dreamed of a new age in these dramatic moves toward a new world of peace and security. And God bless the United States of America.
George Bush, Mikhail Gorbachev, and other politicians have been popularizing the term New World Order. It is not a new idea. It wasn't something just cooked up in the mind of George Bush. It's been around for many years. Predicted by the prophets in the Bible. Terry Cook, tell us a little bit about this coming New World Order.
The New World Order is a counterfeit millennium. The New Agers, the occultists, the communists, the Nazis have been pursuing this New World Order, as you just stated, for years, J.R. Hitler wanted a New World Order. I have a copy of his book here. In 1776, a satanic symbol was created in Europe by Adam Weishaupt, and that we're displaying that here as shown on the back of every single U.S. dollar bill. Folks, take your dollar bill out, flip it over, and look at this satanic symbol that was created in 1776, brought forth in 1782 on the back of the Great Seal of the United States, and actually ordered, placed on our dollar bills by the Roosevelt administration. Mr. Roosevelt and his vice president, Henry Wallace, were both heavily into the occult, and they wanted this symbol on the back of our dollar bill to announce something. And of course, if we study these Latin words, it tells us exactly what's being announced, JR, and let's just review that. Annuit coeptus novus ordo seclorum means announcing the conception of, or literally the birth of, announcing the birth of the new secular order without God under the all-seeing eye of Lucifer, the Antichrist, 666.
Now this word novus ordo seclorum was actually used by Bill Clinton in his inauguration address.
Yes, but before he came to power, George Bush used the phrase New World Order over 200 times, and of course we know that George is affiliated with all of the New World Order organizations, such as the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderbergers, the P2, the Bohemian Grove Society in San Francisco, as well as one of the most powerful secret organizations in America, the Skull and Bones Brotherhood of Death Society in New Haven, Connecticut. So you see, there's a reason why George Bush was chosen to announce this New World Order, and there's a reason why Roosevelt and his vice president wanted this symbol placed on the back of the dollar bill in 1935 to announce the timing of the New World Order under Lucifer. And so isn't it interesting that right after George Bush used this term over 200 times, the United Nations approved of the Iraqi war under United Nations Resolution number 666.
Mercy.
Mercy is right. Lord, come quickly. And so, as you said, on the front page of the Los Angeles Times, after George Bush left office, Bill Clinton used the same Latin phraseology that's on the back of the dollar bill on that satanic symbol, and it says here, Clinton must now choose big gambles or safe bets. January 21, 1993, Los Angeles Times on the very front page. And how many people do you think caught this, JR, when he said that the great symbol on the back of the dollar bill with the inscription Novus Ordo Seclorum means a new age now begins under Clinton? And President Clinton, like many of his predecessors, obviously meaning George Bush and everyone else who has worked to put this thing together, he invoked this spirit on Inauguration Day. But he wasn't the only one talking about the New World Order.
A spirit.
A spirit. There's a spirit behind the New World Order, and it was the same spirit that was behind Adolf Hitler's New Order. This book is virtually extinct. It can be located in a few libraries nationwide. I was given this from an Army officer who found it in a used bookstore in Australia. I photographed it, returned it to him, and portions of this are in my book, The Mark of the New World Order.
It's entitled My New Order by Adolf Hitler.
Yes, and it was published in Australia in 1942. And Adolf Hitler said his Third Reich would lead to a new order and last for 1,000 years. Do you think he was mocking the coming millennium under the Lord?
Amazing. No wonder some called him an Antichrist.
Yes, he thought he was. That's why he marked people with numbers. Now, Henry Kissinger also speaks of this New World Order in his latest book, Diplomacy. This is a blown-up copy of the cover of his book. In 2 chapters of his book, J.R., he speaks of the beginning chapter, the New World Order.
Chapter 1.
And then chapter 31, he closes out the book with the New World Order Revisited. Isn't that interesting? Boy, we're running out of time. I wish we had more time. We could share a lot of information.
This new order that's coming means that the people on the planet will have to conform to this new world order. It is a world government. What's going to happen to the sovereignty of the United States? And who's going to be this one who takes over?
The Antichrist. But let's define it quickly. The New World Order is global communism, repackaged global communism that the devil will lead. He invented communism.
And the United Nations is the catalyst upon which this New World Order is going to be launched.
It will be orchestrated through the United Nations globally.
That's incredible. The Bible tells us in chapter 13 that a beast is going to rise up out of the sea of humanity. He goes on to describe this beast, and it says he has 7 heads and 10 horns. The dragon, that is the devil, gives him power and his seat and great authority. And the scripture goes on to say they worship the dragon which gave power unto the beast, and they worship the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? In other words, he will take over the whole world. That's an incredible concept, and yet it was predicted 2,000 plus years ago in the Bible.
Scripture says he will lead 10 kingdoms. The New World Order has divided the world into 10 regions.
10 political, economic regions. It's an incredible thing. We're going to see in the next segment some more about the New World Order. I think you'll be interested in knowing what's coming down the road because of this globalism. The elections in Russia are over. Boris Yeltsin is the winner. But back a few weeks before the election came to pass, there was a scare in the West that Zhuganov might win. And here in Newsweek magazine, with the big inscription entitled Red Alert, Russia's Historic Vote, there's an article here that says capitalism had won and communism had lost, or so we thought. On June 16th, the citizens of Russia will vote on the first round of an election that may yet stand on its head every assumption a smug, triumphant West has made about the New World Order. In other words, there was a scare that the New World Order established by Western politicians might be pushed back by the rising again of communism in Russia. Here's the Time magazine article, a special report on the upcoming election, Russia back to the USSR. Listen to this article. It says, when George Bush spoke of a new world order. Goes on to say, Zhuganov can be enigmatic and vague when it suits his purposes, but his books and articles reveal a moral absolutist who sees Russia in a death struggle with the U.S. When George Bush spoke of a new world order, Zhuganov labeled the idea geopolitical sabotage, nothing but a plot to establish the West's global supremacy, capitalism, and so on. Well, it's fascinating to see these references to a new world order because that's exactly what's coming in this world under the auspices of the United Nations. Terry Cook, tell us about this new world order and those who have been pressing for it.
Well, it's interesting to me that there are so many references out there regarding this new world order. Virtually every magazine and newspaper, even now, several years after the Iraqi war, when George Bush and Clinton used these phrases commonly on nearly a daily basis, perhaps even an hourly basis there for a while. But we're seeing all kinds of signals out there, JR, that there is a plan for this new world. A lot of happen chance appearing things are coming forth from books and magazines and so on. For example, this 1995 book was released not too long ago. It talks about the Roosevelt administration and Roosevelt's vice president, Mr. Henry Wallace. And it's interesting enough that this is about a $20 book. It's about an inch thick, and it talks about Mr. Henry A. Wallace, Roosevelt's vice president, and his search for a new world order. Isn't it interesting that everybody's using it?
Doesn't matter whether it's Democrat or Republican.
It doesn't matter.
Everybody's moving toward a new world order.
It's a spiritual, satanic plan, but it's also, in its political form, the new world order, when it's finally in place under Satan himself, incarnate in the flesh, the son of perdition, the Antichrist, it will be an enslaving system of repackaged fascism/Nazism. It's going to be I should have said slash communism. It'll be fascism, Nazism, communism. That's what it'll be in its final form. So
basically an enslavement of the people and
Big Brother.
Dictatorship.
1984, Big Brother was a little bit off. Orwell should have written his book and given it a title, 2004, Big Brother.
Wow.
So lots of signals are out there. For example, we mentioned that the Constitution of the United States will be either eliminated or subjugated to a world constitution, and here is a copy of the book for the World Constitution called the Constitution for the Federation of Earth. It's interesting, J.R., that here again we see another reference to the New World Order on the preamble of this half-inch thick book. And they say here, we need a new world order and a new age, exactly the phraseology George Bush and Bill Clinton used to announce that this thing is coming to fruition. And of course, the end of 1995 saw Mikhail Gorbachev in San Francisco with Bush and Thatcher and virtually every New Ager, Ted Turner and Jane Fonda, a Buddhist, the Dalai Lama, virtually every representative of the various kinds of occultic religions, and virtually every kind of liberal and left-wing socialist was there to discuss how we could bring forth, and the San Francisco Chronicle indicates here, bring forth and discuss a new world order, an Earth Charter, and of course Gorbachev was the lead man. Gorbachev came out with his book Perestroika in 1987, 2 years before the wall came down, but right after they met in San Francisco at the Masonic Temple on Nob Hill in San Francisco, Gorbachev released his new book, Mikhail Gorbachev and the Search for a New Beginning, developing a new civilization. And would you read that paragraph on the sleeve of his new book?
In the search for a new beginning, Mikhail Gorbachev, the man instrumental in the end of the Cold War, turns his gaze to the future of politics, nations, and individuals. With a clear understanding of the lessons of the past and the challenges of the future, this insightful book offers a thoughtful blueprint for a new world order.
A new world order is coming under the devil, brother. It's coming, and it's coming quickly. Look at all the other publications. I wish we had more time, but just two more examples of what's out there, folks. This is also a 1995 book. It's about an inch thick. It's called Global Dreams, but the subtitle says a little bit more. Would you read the subtitle to people? Imperial Corporations and the New World Order. Now, of course, we all are familiar in our history books with, I wasn't alive during the time that President Woodrow Wilson was in power during World War I, but it's interesting that a new biography of Woodrow Wilson was just released in 1995 called To End All Wars. And would you read the subtitle on this book as well? Woodrow Wilson and the Quest for a New World Order. And that book is about an inch and a half thick, and it basically indicated that Mr. Wilson associated with socialists, communists, and that he himself had socialistic beliefs, and he wanted to restructure the world for the benefit of the world's people into a global system under a League of Nations. Now, how does that compare to the United Nations plan to give us a new world order? Just another name for the same group. Terry, let me ask you, do you think it's really possible that all of this could be in place in the next few years by the year 2000? Only God knows for sure, but it's interesting, J.R., that both you and I have studied chronology to some degree, and you more than me. And it's interesting that how it may parallel the conclusion of 6,000 years from Adam and Eve. And of course, Jesus says, "Lo, I'm with you even until the end of the age." The biblical age is 2,000 years. And to the best of our ability to calculate it, that's around the year 2001 to 2004. Isn't that interesting that all of these things are happening to apparently conclude this age? It's been a long time in developing, but when it is in position and ready to be presented to the human race, yes, it will take some kind of catastrophe or war. Yes. There are all kinds of possibilities of how it will be introduced, but for sure it will be introduced.
Well, as you listen to Terry Cook, I'm sure that you developed the sense, as I have developed the sense, that things are happening fast. There are a lot of current events that are just happening with lightning rapidity. However, J.R., this has been going on a long, long time. The planning is ages old, really.
It goes back to medieval Europe, at least, to the Illuminati and the Rosicrucians and other secret societies. You know, what is fascinating to me is the idea of the rose of the Rosicrucians. It comes from the term Rosy Cross, which of course is also translated to Red Cross. That's where the Red Cross that we have today stems back into the ancient past, to these ancient symbols. And the rose, I think, is very important to note, those who are members of the Rosicrucians. I have a copy of Time magazine, January 4th, 1993 here. There is a picture in this magazine of Slobodan Milosevic, and he is holding a rose in his hand. It says, the world's other newsmakers. Karl Marx was a bearded Jehovah. That's the way it starts out, as if he were a god, you know. This talks about the butcher of the Balkans, Slobodan Milosevic. It goes on to say that like Jefferson and Rosé, Karl Marx was a creature of the Enlightenment. Well, that's what we're referring to here. And he's holding a rose in his hand as a picture of this incredible enlightenment. But you know, Gary, right here in this same magazine on page 29, there's another picture of Bill Clinton entering the Oval Office. And what's he holding in his left hand? A rose. Is this the symbol of the Rosicrucians? Is he a part of that?